Well, this video is a bit of a departure from what I normally do. What you're looking at here is my main PC, which is in my office, game room, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to do an upgrade to it. You can't see the actual PC, but you might just be able to make out the box. It's behind the center monitor. This upgrade is to highlight really an issue which you may come across if you've got an older PC and you want to upgrade it. Now, I'm very happy with my PC, but it is about 10 years old. I'll give you a rundown on the specs. It's running an Asus motherboard, which is, if I can remember what it is, because I wrote it down. Oh yes, it's a P7H55-M Pro, and it's running 16 gigs of RAM, which is the maximum the board can take. There's about 2 terabytes of hard drive space in it, and it's running a 2.67 gig i5 processor. Now, all of that is pretty old hat nowadays, so it's all about 10 years old, but it works fine. It does, for me, it's more than adequate to do what I want to do. I don't do gaming. It's mainly spreadsheet work, internet access, email, but obviously just recently with the advent of YouTube and creating YouTube videos, I've been doing a lot more video editing, and it's the graphics card which I want to upgrade. Oh yeah, the rest of the system, as you can see, I'm running 3 monitors. These are 23-inch Apple Cinema displays, which I love. They have excellent resolution. It's 1920 by 1200. I've had these for a long time. Although they cost an absolute fortune when they came out, the power supplies, they use an external power supply, and they tended to go on them. So you could pick them up without a power supply on eBay fairly cheaply. And it's very easy to get replacement power supplies, which is what I've done. And that's what you see there. So it's 3 23-inch Apple Cinema display monitors, and obviously the obligatory, which I will never change because I love it to death, IBM Model M keyboard. Once you've used one of these, absolutely bloody brilliant bit of kit, and I would never go back to using anything else on the keyboard's stakes. Pretty much the only high-tech bit of kit is this mouse over here. So the Logitech G604, yeah. Gaming mouse. I like gaming mice because conventional mice simply just don't move fast enough for me. I want the cursor to move instantly when I move the thing, and they just don't move fast enough. And a friend many years ago said, right, use a gaming mouse, you'll run at a much higher resolution, and they move much faster, and he was dead right. So yes, so that's quite new. The other mouse you can see is connected to an identical PC, which is my media PC. So that's why there are 2 mice on the desk. What are we going to upgrade? Well, we're going to upgrade the graphics card, and this is where we run into an issue. I'm running 2 graphics cards at the moment. The main one is an NVIDIA Quadro 4000, which is the main graphics card and drives 2 of the monitors, and then I'm running an NVIDIA NVS 300, which drives the 3rd monitor. And it's fine, but again, it's a 10-year-old graphics card, and it's a little bit underpowered on the video editing side. It works, but I'd like it to run a bit faster. So, yes. What issue is it that we run into? Well, the issue is that PCs of this age, 2010, that kind of era, the motherboards were running what is now today known as legacy BIOS. We just used to call it the BIOS because that's what it was, and that was what motherboards ran for decades. But in 2007, the major players in the chip market, Intel, AMD, and various other manufacturers, came together and decided that the BIOS needed an upgrade, which it did. It'd been running for decades, and they came up with what is now known as UEFI. So what is UEFI? Well, if we close in on the center monitor, I don't know how. So I'm not used to lighting monitors and filming them, so bear with me on this. Right, that's the Wikipedia page, and UEFI is Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. Now, it took the motherboard manufacturers several years to really adopt this as a standard, and certainly my motherboard, which was made in 2010, runs legacy BIOS, and as far as I'm aware, it cannot be upgraded to run UEFI. A lot of motherboards can. They can be flash upgraded to run UEFI. Some motherboards are capable of running both. It's not a problem. But mine is running legacy BIOS. The problem with that and graphics cards is that the vast majority of graphics cards on sale today won't work with a legacy BIOS. They require a motherboard with UEFI on it. So that's the sort of problem that we have. Now, obviously, there's 10 years between when my graphics card was made and when the current lot of graphics cards are made. So ideally, I should be able to find a graphics card which is considerably more powerful than the one I've got and will work with my motherboard. I have no desire to change my motherboard because it would mean buying a new processor, new memory. It's just, it goes on and on. And there's nothing wrong with what I've got. So the problem comes with the graphics cards. It's very difficult to find out information on the graphics cards as to whether or not they will run with a legacy BIOS, whether they require UEFI. For some unknown reason, the manufacturers don't seem to give this information, which is just very awkward if you're trying to do what I'm doing, which is upgrade the graphics card. Now, there's a brilliant Wikipedia page, which I'll go and select now, which lists the NVIDIA graphics cards in chronological order, gives all their specs. Of course, it doesn't tell you what BIOS they require to work with, but what I'm going to do, what I've done anyway, is gone forward in time a little bit from when my graphics card, the Quadro 4000, came out, which was 2010, to 2015. And at that point, NVIDIA had a Quadro K1200 card, which ticks all the boxes for me. It supports 4 monitors, of course I only need 3. It's got twice the amount of memory that my original Quadro card has got, and it has a much powerful processor. So that would be ideal. The question is, of course, I don't know whether it will work with my legacy BIOS. Hopefully it will, because as I said, it's only 5 years newer than the one that's in there. And at that point in time, we were still in the sort of transition phase between legacy BIOS and UEFI. So that's what I've gone for. Let's turn the computer off, get the cover off, and fit the new card. Just before I do turn it off, take it apart, you might be wondering how I can find out what kind of BIOS my motherboard is running. Well, there's various software packages out there that will tell you that kind of information. Speccy is probably the most well-known one, but Windows has a lovely little application itself called MS Info. Bring up the run box, type in MS Info 32, hit return, and it will give you this page up here, which gives you everything you need to know about your system is running. And if you come down to here where it says BIOS mode, it says legacy, which will tell you what the BIOS on your PC is running without having to take the cover off and have a look at the motherboard and then try and find out from that. It's very difficult. So this is a very easy way of finding that out. Right, let's take it apart. Well, here's the PC with the cover off. As you can see, I am a proponent of excellent cable management. Right, so and also you can also see securely fixed in hard drives. Now obviously my PC never moves, so the fact that that solid state drive is just tucked in there is irrelevant. It doesn't, the PC never moves anywhere. So let's have a look at what we're going to be operating on, which is, there you go. So there's the 2 main graphics cards. You've got the NVS 300 on top, which drives one of the either the left or the right monitor, and underneath that large card is the NVIDIA Quadro 4000, which drives the main monitor and one of the other monitors. So we're going to whip those out. I've disconnected the monitors connectors, so we just need to whip those out. So let's get the screws undone. This one, the NVS 300 card, is I think just held in with the screw, but I believe there is also a clip on the, yes, there you've got the NVS 300 card. Managed to pull the microphone off. I'll try that again. So yes, there you've got the NVS 300 card, passively cooled. Now we've got to try and get this big mother out, and there's obviously some SATA cables in the way on this one. Oh yeah, and also there's a power connector on this card as well, which we're going to have to remove. Come out, you bugger. There we go. So to take these out. So that's that one and that one, which of course has got a clip on it. There we go. Okay, so there you have the rather massive Quadro 4000, and it really is a heavy card, that one. So let's get the new one. So this is what we're putting in. This is the Quadro K1200. K1200? Yes, K1200 card. Yep. And we'll also need 3 of these. These are mini DisplayPort to DVI connectors. And it's a considerably smaller card than the one we've just taken out. I did give the PCI slot a quick blowout with some compressed air. Always helps get a little dust out. So it should pop in there nicely. Yes, there we go. I'll stick the screw back in. I wonder if that's going to go in. No, my lovely gripper screwdriver is just too big, unfortunately, so I'll have to use a conventional screwdriver for that. Yep. So that's in there nicely. Let's return our SATA cables to their respective sockets, because I want all my drives working when I put this thing back together. Let's check the others are in there. I haven't disturbed them. I think SATA sockets and plugs are absolutely abysmal design, to be honest with you. They fall out as soon as you look at them, and they are just crap. Right, so that's all back in there. So now we need to put the display adapters on, connect the monitors up, and see what happens. And I'm not going to put the cover on, because that is literally the kiss of death. Okay, all back together, ready to go. This is literally, I'm going to be turning this on for the very first time. So I don't know what's going to happen. Now we should get the motherboard splash screen come up, hopefully, because that's hard-coded into the BIOS, and irrespective, yes, there you go. So that doesn't prove anything, because that would come up anyway. What we got to see now, that's a good sign. We do have, let's move around. Now obviously I don't know, although I know which monitor is plugged into which slot on the graphics card, I haven't got the graphics drivers for this card loaded, so it's just going to use the default generic Windows ones. So hopefully that means it will boot into Windows 10. We shall have to wait and see. Yes, the hard drive light's flashing away merrily, so it's probably all very confused because it doesn't recognise a graphics card. But the fact that we've got the Windows 10 logo up is a good sign. If it wasn't going to boot, I don't think it would have got this far. So, okay, so that's gone now. Let's see what happens next. Are we going to get anything else up? Okay, so it looks like it's restarted again. Yes, it has. Of course, we may just get into this loop. I don't know. This is that's all trial and error for me. This time we've got the Windows little circle of dots. Okay, right. Again, a good sign. Starting to have a good feeling about this. Obviously Windows is still making up its mind about the new graphics card. We've got plenty of hard drive like activity, so. Oh, we've got to please wait now. Oh. Well, I am unbelievably pleased about that. Because it looks like the card's working. Let me just type my password in. Good. I was quietly confident that the graphics card is, as I said, still 5 years old, even though it's a hell of a lot newer than the one I took out. So I was kind of hoping that it would at least boot. So basically all we've got to do now is wait for Windows to finish. It's getting its knickers untwisted, and we can go forward and load the correct drivers for this card, which I've already downloaded on and are in a folder on one of my hard drives. Yeah, but the whole process would have been a lot more less fraught with, shall we say, concern, had I been able to get this information, the information that I needed, which was, will this graphics card work with a legacy BIOS? Well, it obviously will, because it's working with a legacy BIOS on my PC now. But okay, well, that'll do for now. I'm going to now spend probably a considerable amount of time getting the actual right graphics drivers on, and we'll come back when hopefully it's all finished. Well, amazingly, it's all working and back to normal. The driver installation was pretty straightforward. There was one glitch which I've seen before, and that was just after the driver installation started. All the monitors went off and I was left with the center monitor with the flickering horizontal grey and white bars and nothing else on the screen. But the best way to deal with that is just walk away and leave it for, say, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. Give it enough time to complete the driver installation, even though you can't see what's going on. And then once the hard drive light quietens down, just do a hard reset and the computer will reboot, hopefully with the new drivers installed. And I was very pleased. It actually remembered the location of where each monitor was, and the fact that the center one is my main one. So obviously, you know, all the icons and that are on it, and they're back in the positions that they all were. So, you know, it's actually quite good. I haven't tried Shotcut yet. That's the next thing. But yeah, I mean, it was a fairly straightforward upgrade. No major problems. As I said, the only real snag is the fact that you can't find out whether the card you're going to use will work with the BIOS that you've got on your PC. But hopefully this has been useful for anyone else who's thinking about doing this. And like I said, the K1200, the Quadro K1200 card I'm using is 2015 was when it was launched. And that obviously works absolutely fine with legacy BIOS. You don't need UEFI for that. So yeah, fairly painless. Okay, that's it for this one. Like I said, hopefully, you know, people will find it useful if they are thinking about upgrading an older PC, and not to be put off too much by the possible issues that the BIOS can cause. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. Cheers.